Welcome everyone to this hands-on lab session. Um, my name is Chidabera Arinze and I'll be your instructor in today's lesson. Today's class focuses on mastering text and date function. Okay, so you are going to learn, not just learn, you're also going to master some essential text and date functions in Microsoft Excel. Okay, so we are going to see how you can you know, combine text, change the case of text, manipulate text, use some functions like date functions like today, now, and YEARFRAC functions. So these functions are powerful tools that will allow you to clean, manipulate, and analyze your data more effectively. So what is this class for? Okay, what is this class for? This session is designed to bridge the gap between understanding the theory and understanding the theory behind these functions that we are going to discuss, we are going to learn today, and applying them in real world scenarios. So we will learn the concept and put them into practice using a sample employee data set that we have. Okay, so we'll be using this sample employee data set to see how we can, after discussing the concept, we'll practice it to see how it's being done. Okay, so by the end of this class, you will be able to, learn most of these. Let me go back here so you can see them. We'll be able to learn when we talk about either concat or concatenate in the new version of Excel, like Excel, maybe Excel 2020 or a newer version. Okay, you will have concat. Okay, you don't have to use concatenate. Though concatenate is also there, but you can use concat. But older version of Excel, like from I think from 2016 down, is concatenate. So depending on the version of Excel that you have, I may say concat. That is, it just ended at T, concat. And you might try to use it on your own Excel, and it's not there. I just know that maybe it's because your Excel desktop version is maybe an older version, so you can use concatenate. That is the full name, concatenate. Okay, so we also going to see how we can use a case functions like upper, lower, proper, and the yes, upper, lower, and the proper to change the case of our text or the strange type of data that we have. Okay, so then we're also going to learn other text manipulation, how you can manipulate text by extracting some information from that text using the left, right, mid, find functions. Okay, you use left to find maybe the left part of the text and the right function to get the right, some of the right, part of that text, or you can use mid function to find the middle. Then you can also use the use the find to find maybe the location of a character in a text. Okay, then we also learn date functions. Okay, we're going to learn date functions like today, now, and the YEARFRAC functions. These are the functions we are going to see in this class. Okay, so we are going to learn specifically in this hands-on session. We are going to learn. You will learn how to combine. You can see combine names as we have here. So standardized case and extracting part of text. So you are going to learn how to combine text from different cells, okay, into a single cell. So we have a text in maybe column A1, and we have a text in column B1. So we want to combine those texts in column A1 and B1 in C1. We want to combine it to have both texts in C1. So we are going to see how we are going to do that. Then we are going to see learn how to standardize the capitalization of text, okay, for consistency. Like and during our basic class, there's places where I talk about data cleaning, and you see sometimes when you, especially when you use survey, like most of all, even just like the career X, I think they have sent out some survey. They want to know your experience about the program and all that. And some of us might type in capital case, some might type in lower case, some might after typing for in capital case in some text, and in some in lower case, some in proper case. So that is the way. If the organization import, or I mean export that data, if they export that data maybe and import it in Excel, it will be in that form. So it will not be consistent. Some text in capital, some. So you are going to learn how to standardize the capitalization of those texts, for consistency. So if you are using lower case for that column, all the information in that column will be lower case. If it is upper case or lower case, or proper case, it will remain like that. That's what I mean by consistency. So we're also going to learn how to extract specific portions of text. Okay, just like I talk about the left and the right and mid function. So how to extract specific portion of a text based on their position. Okay, if they are in the left, just like this text we are seeing here, this is on the left, right? They is on the left side, while function is on the right side, and you could maybe say that these informations here are on the middle. And even if you, when you can say these ones are on the left side, if you want to get it, there are some things you need to do so that you don't have to, maybe if you want it to include both from here to here, there are things you are going to learn how you can be able to do that using these functions that we want to use to extract portion of text and all that based on their position. So we also learn how to locate the position of characters. This is where we are going to use the find function within a text string. Okay, then we are going to learn how to calculate. Okay, even before that, we are going to learn how to work with date and time and data. Okay, we're going to learn how to work with current dates and times. Okay, then we'll now learn how to calculate the difference between dates. Okay, especially when you want to find out how many, maybe how many years this employee have been in this company. You want to know if this employee maybe have worked for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. Maybe there is a rule, maybe the principles in that company, or the way they run the organization. Maybe once you have worked for maybe 5 years, they will promote you, or they will increase your salary. Or so how are they going to find out? You are going to use the date function. I'll show you how you can be able to use one of the date functions to be able to extract that information, to be able to know if Mr. A has been in this company for 5 years or not. So we will be proceeding step by step. Okay, for each function we will explore. So for each function we are going to explore, I will first provide a detailed explanation so that you will understand it, just like I'm doing now. Okay, my class is not type where I will just come and I rush into showing you these functions. It will wow you here how these functions works, but you will not have a clear understanding of what those function is. This explanation I'm doing now is actually what that will help you in when you go for an interview. If they ask you, okay, explain this concept. Okay, you wrote this function, explain it. If you don't understand what that function is, even though you know how to write it, you might not be able to defend it. Even data analysis or data science job involves storytelling, sharing information, insights, sharing of insights. So if you don't know how to tell story or communicate your data, it will be another problem or a setback for you. Okay, so I'll first provide this detailed explanation, then most likely we'll just like we are discussing on the slide. Okay, we'll go from slide to slide on that specific function. Then immediately after each slide, we will switch over to Excel. So once I discuss this slide, we switch to Excel to see how it's been done. Okay, so this way you get a clear understanding of both the what and the how. Okay, you understand the what and the how to do it, then what is it exactly, okay, then how to do it. Okay, so let's dive right in our first function, concat. Okay, so we'll be discussing the concat or concatenate function depending on the version of Excel you're using. So our first function is concat or concatenate. In some older versions of Excel, you have concatenate. Just like I'm using Excel 2016, so we'll be using concatenate instead of concat. Okay, but if you have a newer version, just know you can use concat. Okay, so think of this function as a powerful tool for joining different pieces of text together. So imagine you have someone's first name in one cell and their last name in another. Okay, but you need their full name in a single cell, for a report. You want to make a report, so you don't want to have their first name and in different column and their last name in different column. You want to have their full name in a single column, so for your report. Okay, so this will be very helpful for you, right? That's exactly what concat does. So it takes several text strings as input and combines them into one single text string. The syntax here is that for concat is straightforward. Okay, if you look at this place, you see here are the syntax. Okay, for concat. Okay, say concat this text, which is the text one, then put comma, then the second text, which is the text two. Then if you want to concat more than two double text, maybe you want to combine both first name, middle name, last name. Okay, in that case as a full name. So this is the syntax. Is straightforward. You don't have to bother so much about it. Okay, so here the text one is the first piece of text you want to join. Okay, after you write the concat equal to concat function, then the text one is the first piece of text you want to join. Then text two is the second, and so on. Okay, whether you have text three and so on, you can include as many text elements as you need. Importantly, if you want to include spaces or other characters between your original text spaces, you need to explicitly include them as text within the function. Okay, enclosed in quotation marks. So what this means, if you want to add a space, or hyphen or whatever character you want to add in between the text, you have to enclose them in quotation. Okay, who has their mic on mute? Please mute your mic. Okay, so in our employee dataset that we have here, which we will be using for this class, in this employee dataset, we have the first name as you can see here, we have the last name as you can see here, right? So in one columns, a single column represents each of these data. Okay, for the first name in one column and the last name in another. Okay, but to create a full name in a column, just like we have here, I'll have the full name, and this is where we're going to perform what we want to do. To create this full name column, we use the concat or concatenate to join the first name, then a space, and the last name. Why we need to add a space is because we don't want, just like we have Steve here, Bakata here, to be together. If I don't add the space, so you have to add a space. And that is what I just explained, that you need to explicitly include them, as text within the function. Then you enclose them in quotation marks. Okay, so that is how it's been done. Okay, a space, whether you want to maybe to join the first name and the last name, you need to add that space then before the last name. Okay, so now let me show you exactly how to do this in Excel. So remember last week we are talking about a data analyst. His name is Ken. Okay, so imagine that Ken needs to combine the first and last name of his employees into a single column. Okay, so this is perfect job for CONCAT. Okay, where you have to use CONCAT or concatenate. So remember concat or concatenate in, when I say concatenate, you just know that I'm talking about concat in the older version, in older Excel versions. Okay, so they join text string together. So we give it the pieces of text and it glues them together in the order we want. So where do we want the full name to appear? It is here in D4. Okay, that's where we want these two names to be, to appear here. So I will start the formula. Remember I said whenever you want to start a formula or function, you start with what? Equal to, right? Then I'll start typing the concat. Okay, if you look at, like I said, my own version of Excel is 2016. So what I have there is concatenate. I don't have concat, otherwise it would have been visible for me. Okay, so I'll press tab to select the concatenate function. So you can now see, you can see the syntax, right? Just like I explained earlier. We have text one. So Excel, if you look at the syntax, you see that this one is bold, right? That's telling you that's the next thing Excel is expecting you to do or to provide, the text one. Okay, so after I've typed the formula concat or the function concat that I want, then I'll first grab the first name that I want. So this is the first name, right? I'll click on the first name, then I'll type comma, right? After I do this, the next thing is if I may have maybe go straight to type maybe equal to or something like that. Okay, if I say equal to and I type the last name, you see that it will join them without any space or something like that. Okay, so if I type the comma, and let me just show you what I'm saying, and I click this one and I close the bracket and I say enter, you see there is no space, something to differentiate, which is also a dirty data. So what we need to do here, or let me just start afresh so that you will not be confused. So select the C4. Then after we select the C4, the next thing is to type comma. Then another thing is quote, double quote. If I click on double quote, I will give space. That space that I want, then another double quote. Okay, that space is like a string. It's like a text. So add a quotation on it. Remember, whenever you are writing string, you have to enclose them in quotation, whether it is in Python, wherever you find string, you enclose them in quotation mark. That is how these softwares are able to identify strange, except if, just like in the situation whereby though Steve here is strange, but I didn't type the name, I select it by the the column and the row information. That's why you have C4. Okay, you don't have to enclose it anymore. So after I've added the space that I want, enclosing the quotation mark. Okay, Excel, because I enclose this as a quotation mark, Excel will treat it as a text. Then I will now type comma again. Then the next, why I'm adding extra spaces here is just to make my data clean. Okay, like this space that I added, even the space that I added before I use the quotation and the space, it's just to make the data clean. Those spaces are not going to show, right? So another comma, I've typed it. Then the next thing now is to select the last name, right? Then I'll press enter, or if manually enclose the closing bracket, or if I press enter, it will still work. I say we'll close it for you. Now we have both the first name and the last name in our full name column, right? So now remember about the fill handle. If I use the fill handle and if I double click, remember I've already taught us about that. If you want to fill, either you drag, okay, but because we have a lot of rows, you don't have to drag. Maybe if you have up to hundred or thousands of rows, you don't have to keep on dragging. So all you have to do is to go to this square that you can see at the edge, bottom edge when
8
you
minutes
select the
for the
data.
shutdown.
Can you hear me? Okay, okay,
Yes,
I've
ma'am.
seen that. So, let me give me a moment. This might require a pro version. Let me just dismiss. So, within 5 minutes from now, or let me say 3 minutes, I will. Okay, let me see. I will talk about how to do the next one. Then we'll end this class and I'll start again. I'll create a new link for that. So what I was explaining is about the field handle. So once I hover towards that block over here and I double click on it, it will fill the data for me. But one thing, anyway, when we get there, when we get to the case function, I'll discuss that. So I wouldn't want to jump about talking about that. So the next thing we want to discuss about is the ampersand and the ampersand operator. We use the ampersand and that ampersand style of writing and is actually called ampersand. Okay, so it is one of the operators we have in most of these programming languages. And it's just like I said, in a beginner class, I talk about most of the things you learn in Excel can be transferred in some of these programming languages like Python. So Excel is like a foundation because we are talking about function. Function is also in Excel, in Python, and R, and all of these programming languages. And what you learn here, you can help you to understand. At least you have heard about functions before and how it works. So we want to talk about how we can combine data using this ampersand. Okay, so we have another way to do this using the ampersand apart from using the concat or concatenate in the older version itself, and that's by using this ampersand. You can see that is in enclosed in bracket. Okay, so you can think of the ampersand as a shorthand way of using and. Okay, and then maybe you want to add something. Okay, so maybe a word together and the ing, you want to join them together. Okay, so if achieve the same result as concat but with a slightly different approach directly within the formula. Okay, it's the same, it achieve the same thing, but the thing is that the approach is different, entirely different. So instead of using the concat function name, you simply put ampersand between the text elements you want to join. Okay, for example, if you wanted to join the text in maybe insult, maybe A1 and the B1, for instance, you will use, just like we have text 1 and text 2, you want to join them, you have to use the ampersand, the middle of them, and so on, depending on the number of text or column numbers you want to, row numbers you want to join. Okay, so in our task of creating email addresses, as you can see, we have a task of creating an email address, and we are going to delete this email address from you know these two full names that we have here. Okay, so let's see how that works. So let's see how that works in Excel. Let's start immediately. So where do we want the email to appear? We want it to appear in this place. So once I click in the Excel source E4, then I'll start with the equal to. Okay, so once I type the equal to, then I'll grab the first name. I'll grab the first name, which is Steve. Then after I grab the first name, I'll type the ampersand. Okay, so I'll type the ampersand. Then after I type the ampersand, I need to add dots. I want the email to be steve.bakat at whatever the email extension that we use. So because of that, I have to include that dot in quotation. Remember, we did that, but in that case, it was space that we include in the concatenate function. So this we add a dot in between. Now I will type another ampersand. Okay, after I type another ampersand, Then the next thing will be the last name that I want. Then after that last name, then another ampersand. Okay. Then now the extension that we want. Okay. Maybe for instance let me use this push pin. No, I don't want it in capital error. So pushpin.com. Okay. So if I press enter now, you see it has created the email for us. So even if I want this pushpin, let's say this pushpin is the name of the company. Okay. So this is how we get companies assign email address to their employees. Okay. If they want to use both your first name, I think the class must have, let me check. We don't have time anymore, so I'll be ending the class now. Then I'll create a new link for us. Why is this thing auto caption? Oh, wow, who asked you? So I will be creating a new link, I think, so that the class will not cut. But we have to be able to see how we were able to create the email address using the ampersand. So I'll use the field handle to do it. So the next class will be talking about case function. Then there you will see how you can be able to use case function to treat other if you look at the test, you see that the test is not it's not what will I use it? Maybe some are in capital and some are in uppercase, lowercase, and all that. So we'll see how we'll be able to do that. Before we continue to the next function, I would like to know if any of you have any question. We'll treat question at the end of the class. Do you have any question before we move? Let me go to Excel. So do you have any question about the functions we have written so far? Any question on the ampersand or on the concatenate?
Please, how to recreate this thing?
How to create what?
What's it called? Using the ampersand email. This one you did before you did something. Before you did the what's it called? Autofill.
Before I did what?
Before you did autofill, how you just created the
the push. Okay, before I okay. Let me undo so I will show you what I did. Okay. So I was discussing about the ampersand, how you can use ampersand to do the same thing that you with concatenate. Okay. So but the only thing different there is the approach, okay, that you use while writing an ampersand. Okay, instead of when you use concatenate as a function, if you type equal to, you type the function, then in the enclosed bracket, everything happen inside there. But for the ampersand, you start with equal to. Then first of all, select the first name. The name, let's say this is an employee data, right? And the name of the company is Pushpin. Okay, so this is a Pushpin HR database. Okay, now these are the employees details. You can see this is employee ID and other. So we want to generate email. These are our new employees that we hired, and you can see we want to generate email, corporate email for our employees. So you can use ampersand to do this. Okay, just as you might also use concatenate, but we want to see how you can use ampersand to create the email. So to do this, remember, you start with the equal to, then you select the first name that you want to, then type the ampersand. Okay, then the next thing is dot. We want the first name dot the last name at the name of the company.com. That's how you want it to be. So any of the text of number, I mean either string or integer, you want to add in this function, you have to, okay, if it is text, it must be enclosed in quotation. But if it is a number, you just put a number. Okay, so for instance now, we want to use dot, which and we want Excel to treat it as a string. So we have to enclose it in a quotation and dot, then that's it. Enclosing it a quotation means the first quotation, then the character, then the ending or closing quotation. Okay, then after you do this, then you use ampersand again. This ampersand is actually what you use to concatenate them, to combine or to join these characters or text together. So after you have done that, what you need to understand here is that first of all, start with equal to the text that you want to join. You use then ampersand to join the next thing. The next thing we want to join after the text is dot. Just like on the concatenate, we use space to separate the first name and last name. Here, we want to use dot. Okay, so after the first name, it's dot first before first name dot last name. That's what we want to see there. That's why we have to use dot here. Then after the dot, what else do you want to combine or to join to the text, which is the last name? Before you add the next thing, you must use ampersand. So ampersand is actually what you use to join each of these characters, or each of these, I won't say character, I will say each of these data type, whether it's text or a number, or string or integer or whatever. So after ampersand again, now the last name that we want to join here. Then after the last name, then we want to add the name of the company.com. Just like on your email, Gmail, you have your name at gmail.com, right? So this is another thing, and that at gmail.com is a string. Okay, so before we now add it, we also use another ampersand to join it. So after this C4 is the first name, then ampersand is to join the next thing that we want. So because we don't want to use tvbakata at pushpin.com, we want tvia.bakata. Otherwise, I will just eradicate this. If I just want the full name to be together, okay, I will just eradicate it. Or for instance, let's say I don't want to use dot, maybe, or after I use dot, I still want maybe a number at the end, maybe from this ID. Maybe you want the last number of the ID, something like that. But for me to get the last number of the ID here, I will have to use the other functions that we want, maybe just like the right function or left function, depending on where you want the character. But that's not what we want to do here. What we want to do is to get the first name dot last name at name of the company.com. So this C4 is the first name. Then before we join that dot, add that dot to it, you use ampersand to join it. Understand? To combine them. Then after the dot, then another ampersand, so that you combine, add the last name. Then after the last name, another ampersand. This ampersand is actually what that join this text. So treat this C4 as the first name, then ampersand to join the next thing, dot, ampersand to join the last name, now ampersand to join the name of the company, which is pushpin. So because pushpin is a text, and the at character we're going to use, Excel will also treat it, for Excel to also treat it as a text, we have to enclose it also in a quotation. Then I can now say at pushpin.com, right? Then enclose the quotation. That's all. Then you say enter. Okay, so you can see it was able to get this is that C4 is this TV you are seeing here, right? Is that not what is here? Then before you add the dot, use ampersand. That is what you use to join it. Okay, because it is a separate character that is not on Stevia. If I have done Stevia dot without using ampersand to join this, it will not copy down to these ones. This dot will not copy down to other ones. If I have said C4 and I add dot in front of C4 before joining the last name, it might show up for this one, but it will not copy down. Understand? So you have to add it as a different text character, the dot. Okay, so that's why we have Stevia, which is the C4. To add the dot, use ampersand. Then after you add the dot, then to add the last name, you have to combine. Ampersand is actually what you use to join. If you look at the formula bar, you see what I'm talking about. This is Stevia, ampersand. Before the dot, you use ampersand. Then after the dot, ampersand again before you add the last name. After the last name, ampersand again before, until if I have wanted to join another thing here, I will also add the word ampersand here. add whatever again I want to add. Understand? Maybe he shall, but it doesn't make sense anymore. Let's say I want to add a shall again. I will use another ampersand and I will say he shall, probably maybe in lowercase, and I will say enter. It will add it for me. You see? So if I want to separate the he shall with maybe a dot first, I have to enclose it. I'll start again with ampersand, then enclose it with a dot or maybe comma. Let me use comma this time. And another, okay, this is not comma actually. Okay, let me just use this character that I use here anyway. And I'll press enter. You say false because I use greater than. Do you know why? Excel. Okay, sorry, I missed something. Another ampersand. Okay, after the character, you have to use another ampersand. That's why we get that false, because it was an error for us. So after the ampersand, for this, this quotation mark is not supposed to be here. Let me correct this mistake. Then ampersand, join this ahead, then ampersand, join this one. Okay, it's now okay. You see, I've been able to add those characters. So I was just doing this for you to see whatever you want to add first, you have to use ampersand. Whatever you want to add, and if I copy it down, it will retain all of this thing that I did here in all of them, which is not what I want us to do. Okay, so okay. So we have gotten to the normal what you want to do. So ampersand is actually what you use to combine any of these text, whatever you want to add on the character. And if I now use the fill handle, I'll copy it down for us. Any further question before we move ahead? I hope you understand what I explained here, Kelvin.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it is not clear to you right now, you can always visit the watch the video again. This class is recorded, so you have access to it, and sometimes you might not catch something immediately. In fact, when we get to the find function, that is where, when we get there first, you see for yourself. Let me not go ahead, but you must not learn it immediately. You have to go back to the video, do it yourself, follow it. It's not just watching, do it yourself. Even if you have a separate data with you, try to follow the step that, and as you follow the step, you understand it further. Okay, even that find I'm talking about, I will still talk about. Sometimes it still confuse me, understand, but you must not get everything immediately. Okay, so any further question before we move to the next function we want to discuss? So I assume there is no further question. Let's forge ahead. Maybe at the end of the class, I believe we will have more questions. So what I want to talk about the case functions. The case function, the upper, lower, and proper case. Okay. Now, sometimes the test data we work with might have inconsistent capitalization. Okay. Some in all uppercase, some in all lowercase, and some with a mix of both upper and lowercase. Okay, Excel provide these three very useful functions: the upper, the lower, and the proper functions, to help us standardize the what we are doing. Okay, so if you use the upper function is a very simple way for you to take any text you give it to and convert all the letters to uppercase. The same thing applies to lower. It converts all the text to it's opposite to upper. So it's the job is to convert all letters in the text to lowercase. Then the proper case is particularly useful for names and title. Okay, you want to, just like this information here, you want to each text to be capitalized. Okay, this one, you can see this one is a mix of both proper and the uppercase here, right? So the same thing could apply in Excel. Okay, so the syntax for all three is quite similar. Okay, their syntax is the same. As you can see here, say upper, what do you want to convert to uppercase? Lower text, the syntax is different. So it's not like you write this one, in a different way that might confuse you. So in our employee data, let me open the employee data. So we have the employee data. If you look at this employee data, especially at the first name and the last name that we work with, you will notice that the thing that I'm talking about, maybe the data entry, the person that actually entered this data, did this, wrote some in. You remember when I wanted to type the push pin and it was my caps lock was on and it was typing in uppercase. Some might not even notice it. You see, they'll type some, maybe by the time they notice, they deactivate the cap lock and say maybe later we'll go and sort it out. And maybe the person that does the data entry doesn't know this function that we are going to discuss now. So it might be a problem. They just leave it like that. Or it could be a survey that you receive and me, I type my own details in capital and uppercase. You type your own in lowercase, and you can even see some that first name, if you type the first name in uppercase and the last name in lowercase, there are some people that can miss that, or even in the same first name, they mix, all of these things, they mix the characters, maybe some in uppercase and some in lowercase. All of these things makes the data to be dirty. And most of the things we are performing here is part of when you want to prepare data for analysis, and you have to clean the data. It's part of data cleaning using Excel. Okay, so in our employee data, we want the full name, this full name that we just did. We want the full name colon to look professional, because you see Stevia Bakata. Okay, this one is at least okay, but this one is in proper and this one is in upper. You see, because of we have joined the two names now, the thing has become a mix of these functions. So you want it to look professional, okay, with each name starting with a capital letter. So we use the proper function here, okay. For the email address column here, we will use we want the email, I want to standardize it to use all lowercase. Normally, that the email address are actually supposed to be in lower case, so it's not like something you will have here. So the data is still dating. So first of all, we want to fix the full name. Then after fixing the full name, we now fix the email. Okay, so I'll click on D4, okay, where we want to fix the the full name so that they will all be in proper case. Okay, now I will go to the formula bar, or you can double click to do it, but the best will be for you to, once you click it, go to the formula bar. Okay, now if you go to the formula bar, I want to add the proper case there. Okay, so after the equal to, because I want to make it proper. Okay, after the equal to, I will now type the proper function. Okay, then if I select it, then I will now go at the end and enclose it, because this is the enclose the bracket, the parenthesis for the proper function. So you have to enclose it, and even if you don't do that, Excel automatically close it for you. So if I press enter, you see that, though, because the first one was already improper, so you might not notice until I use the fill handle to do it. You will see it has now convert all of them to be in proper function. Now let's do the same for the email. So I'll go to the email, I'll select the cell E4, then because this is in you use ampersand here. So what I will do here is to go to that equal to again, and I will say equal to, then I'll say equal to lower, this is the lower function line, tab, sorry, let me see what happens. So I'll type the lower, the lower function, then tab. Okay, then I have to enclose the parentheses at the end. So now this ampersand function that we write are inside the are nested inside the lower function. Don't worry, we'll discuss about nesting function now. We are already doing it here, so we will not waste time about it when we get there. So if I press enter, you see it has converted everything in lowercase. Then we also use the fill handle to copy it down. So everything is now in lowercase. So you notice how we use proper for the names and the lower for email address. Okay, why did we do that? Okay, any question about case function? Can anybody tell me why did we use the proper for the name, and why did we use the lower for the email? And if you have any question, you can ask. If you don't have, we move on. Then at the end, you can ask your question. So can anyone explain to us why we use? Can you tell me why did we use the proper function for the full name, and we use the lower function for the email? I would like to see someone explain that to us. I'm listening. Just give it a try. I hope you all can hear me. Or should I just move
Yes, I
ahead?
can hear you.
Yeah,
Let's
I need
move on.
someone to
Move on.
tell us. I should move on.
Yeah, move on. Move on.
Okay. So the next thing
For
we
me,
want.
I don't know for others. For me,
Okay, for you.
yeah.
And
Yes.
I don't want only you to be. I don't want you to be the only one talking.
Okay.
Another other people can say something. If you feel like you have an answer to that, you can say, okay, this is why we did this. It shows that you're actually learning. And if you think I should move on, you can also say something. One person shouldn't be the one talking.
For me, I know generally email addresses are used written with.
Lowercase.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Because you have to format it. This is, you are formatting the data, right? This is that part of the formatting data. So you want it to be in lowercase using the lower function. Okay, and we want our data to be organized. Okay, we want our data to be organized. We wouldn't want it to to be inconsistent. So for the full name, we use proper case because we have thought about the case functions, right? And let's go to SL. So we thought how we can be able to use the lower to change the case of our email, and upper proper to change the format, capitalize our full names. Okay, now we want to talk about nesting function, which is what we have already done here. Understand? This is what we have already done on the full name and the email. Okay, but I just want you to understand the concept here. Okay, and push Excel calculate first. So we use nesting when we apply this proper and the CONCAT formula for the full names. Then we use the proper for the full names, and we use the lower for our email. Okay, now for the full name where we used proper, okay, as proper, then before the concat, after we type, if you look at the formula, you see that this concatenate function is nested inside the proper function. For those of us who have maybe learned part of Python, you must have heard about nesting functions, right? So this same thing applies to in Excel. So the concatenate function is nested inside the proper functions. Okay, that's this concat, then C4 and every other thing that happens here are inside the proper. Okay, so the proper function, then the concat nested inside it, just the nested function take the result of that concat and make it proper case. Okay, so Excel does the concat first. That is what you need to understand. Excel have to concat the two texts, this information here, plus including the space that is added to it here. Excel have to done that, have to do that first. Then before it performs the proper function. This allows us to combine different functionalities to achieve more complex results in a single step. Okay, so we see more example nesting. We go as we go on. I think someone just joined. If you join, please mute your mic. So then I don't know if anyone could tell us why it is important to have the right number of brackets. Just like when I added the proper, I have to make sure I include the closing bracket. You remember in Python you talk about errors. Understand? You might have an error maybe when you misspell a syntax or you forgot to add something on a syntax or any of the syntax, it will throw an error. If you do the same in Excel, especially when you forgot to enclose the last bracket, maybe if you think that you have the last bracket because you are seeing this particular bracket after before, you think you have the last one, but that's, you have to make sure that each bracket has it, each opening bracket has the closing bracket or parenthesis, whichever term you use for it. Okay, so I don't know if you have any question you want to ask about the proper. We have already done, the nesting of function, we have already done that. So I have to, when we are doing the proper and the lower function, what we are actually doing is nesting the previous function we did, and except if we got this information or maybe we use the proper and the or lower or whatever functions here before we use the concatenate function to get them here, but you know that we need to apply that on the email, so you don't have to use maybe say lower for this one, and you have to use the concatenate to get them first before you now use proper or whatever lower or upper depending on the what is required. Like for the email, lower function is required. So that is it. So the next thing we want to talk about is, I don't know if you have a question. If you have a question, you can ask before I move to the next topic. If you have a question, ask. If you don't have a question, tell me to move ahead. I want this to be an interactive class. Don't
For
just
me, you said I shouldn't be the only one talking. That's why. So,
if I ask question, if you don't have an answer, say you don't have no question for now, you can move ahead. It will show that this is an interactive class. That if I ask question, no one is responding. It seems like I'm just talking to myself. No one is listening. So you have to say something at least. Unmute your mic, drop your response, and we move ahead. So the next function is the left, right, and the mid function. Okay, so we want to explore this, or how to extract specific part of text using the left, right, and the mid function. Okay, so the left functions here, it allows you to extract a specific or a specified number of characters starting from the left side of a text string. Okay, so the syntax is left, as you can see here, then the text will be inside. Okay, just like we can see here in syntax, left, then the text, then the number of characters you want to extract. Okay, after you select that particular text, you want to get just the left part of it, then the number of characters you want to get starting from that left. Okay, so where that text is the original text, and num character, that as you can see here, is the number of characters you want to extract. So it applies to all of them, whether left, right, or mid function. Okay, so just like I said, the right function, I've said that before, I said they are similar, just that maybe this one is doing extracting from the left, this one is extracting from the right. Okay, just like when we talk about upper and lower, say it's opposite, it convert it to lower, this one upper or convert it to uppercase. So that goes to this function too, depending on the name. The left, extract from the left, the right, extract from the right. The middle gives you the flexibility. That's the mid function. It gives you the flexibility to extract characters from any position within the text. Okay, so we use the mid function, whether from any position, you can use the mid function to extract the character from any position. So as you can see, the syntax for it here is text, then the start num and the number of characters. It's actually different, slightly different from the left and the right function. Okay, here it's not just before the number of characters, you have to add the number, okay, the number of characters, I mean the start norm, which is this where you want it to, the position of the first character you want to extract is the start norm. Okay, that's counting from the left, starting at number one or starting at one, or while counting from or the character in the position of one, while starting from the left, or if you are counting from the left, and the number of characters is the number of characters it will extract starting from that one. Okay, so here in our employee data, we have a location column here. Okay, this is a location column that combines building floor, wing and phone extension, okay, that you can use to contact that um, building or location. So let's start by using the left function to extract the building code, which appears at the beginning of the location string. So I'll click in the floor data, which is the L4, where I want the floor to appear. So I will type equal to, remember when you want to start a formula with equal to, then the left function, then I'll click tab to select the function. So the text is actually where we want to start the extracting. We want to extract those information that we want, which is that those texts could be found in the location column. So which is in the K4, then you select K4. Then after you type K4, you now type comma. After you type comma, now you can see that this is highlighted bold. This is to tell us, okay, the number of characters you want to deliver, something like that. Okay, so I'll type the number of characters to extract. In this case is 2. Okay, I want to extract 2, number. So before you do that, you have to count, which is actually 1 2 0 2. That is 0 is 1 and the 2 is number 2. That's how I was able to get that 2. So you have to understand. So you don't just think that I get 2 from my head. No, this is the left side of the text, and the first 2 characters there are this 0 2, right? So if I press enter, it will get out those first two numbers. Okay, because if I say 3, it will add this hyphen on it. So I will now use fill handle to fill it up. Then the next I want to talk about is the write function, right? So the write function, you want to get the extension. Okay, remember the extension is the phone extension. Okay, maybe the phone number extension. Okay, that's what we want to get for the write function. So I'll click where I want the extension to appear. So here I'll click it, then I'll start typing the write function just like we did for the left function. Select tab. Once you start typing, Excel will suggest the name of the function, then you use tab to select it. Okay, but if you have more, maybe number of functions suggested, keep on typing so that that particular one will come on top, then you use tab, or you go over there, select it by yourself. Okay, so after the write function, I will now go again. I'll select the text that I want us to find the right character, then I'll say comma. The next thing again is number of characters. So I'll count again. 5 is 1, 3 is 2, 6 is 3, and 2 is 4. So it's actually 4. Remember, I'm adding those space before I type 4, just for it to be clean. So it doesn't matter whether I didn't add the space and I just type 4. It's the same thing. Okay. So it's just for me to have a clean data, and I'll click enter. So it has extracted the extension for us, and I'll use the fill handle to fill it up. Then the wing, this is where we are going to use the mid function. Okay, so the mid function to extract the wing information, which is somewhere in the middle of the location string. So we need to count the starting position and the number of characters for the wing. Okay, so I'll start with typing the equal again, then the mid and the tab to select the function. Then the text is actually this, then comma, then the start norm that we want to start, where we want to start counting. So the start norm, we want to start from 1, 2, 3. So we will say we want to start maybe with 4. 4 is the next character that we want to start counting from. So let me just type 4 and see if we get it correctly. Then the number of characters we want to get here is 1. The west is actually those ones in the middle. So we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 4 as well. So I'll type 4 and I'll include and I'll press enter. You can see. So the formula says this, first of all, when you select meet function, then the text, which is this, then the start number, you count from the beginning, the right, I mean the left, the beginning of the text, then you count 0 is 1, 2 is 2, hyphen is 3. Then we want to start from the 4th position, which is the W of the west, then after that, then how many number, understand, that's the next thing, number of characters that you want to extract. You want to extract 4 characters. Okay, remember this space that is at the middle of them, Excel treat them as a character. So it's also a number. If you want to count the number of all of these characters, you see that you might say 1, 2, 3, 4, and you skip this space and start counting from T again and go. That space is also a character. So if I press enter, I get what I want. Then I use the fill handle to fill it up, right? Now, you can see we have been able to see how to use the left, right, and the middle function to get these informations, in a separate columns here for us. Okay, you can see our data is actually coming up. Now, this is the next thing we want to talk about is the find function. This is where you understand that space is actually a character. Excel will count it as a character. Okay, so as we saw in the mid function, sometimes the position of the text we want to extract isn't fixed. Okay, so this is where the find function becomes incredibly useful. Okay, sometimes the position of this, okay, look at here, you can see this knot. It didn't get all the information. Why? Because you can see that in this knot, it missed the H. The reason why is that we said 4, right? We want it to count from 4. Meanwhile, the spelling of knot is what? More than 4 is 5. That's why we have some of the spelling mixing, right? So you use the find function to correct this. Okay, so the find function becomes very useful for you in this case. Okay, the find function allows you to locate the starting position of a specific text string within another text string. Okay, so the syntax is used. Let me go to this slide so you see the syntax for so the syntax is, you say find, then the text you want to find, where the text is. Okay, you want to find this text, let's say particular text. Within this text, then the number you want to start counting from. Okay, that is what you want to. So you use it as a helper function with this mid, left, and right function. So let's go back to Excel. So we can use define to locate delimiters like hyphens that is in here, or spaces within our location data. Okay, so this will give us the exact starting point we need for more accurate extraction. Okay, using whether the mid or left or right function. So to make the mid function that we use here more flexible, we can use the find function. Okay, so I'll click on let's first of all try it here and see what works. Okay, we want to first of all find the position of that space. Okay, in this particular text we want to find the position of all of this space that we have here. So I will say equal to, and I will use the find function. Find function. Then I will select maybe we want to find space, right? Space is what we want to find. So I'll put space in the middle of the quotation, and I'll say comma. Then want to find space within these texts that are here. Then after you type the space, then type comma and select that text where they are. The start none might not be useful here. It is optional. So I'll press enter for now. Okay, so you see that the position of the space here is 8. Like if you start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then the space is 8. But it might not be the same for other ones. Okay, let me use the fill handle. You can see this one is 9. So we have some of the positions. You see, their position are different. That's why the thing affected the mid function that we use here. Okay, to get the information. So the find function that we used here tells you the position of the first space and how we can use this with the mid function. Okay, so how are we going to use, now we see the position, how are we going to use it in the mid function? Okay, so let's see how that works. Okay, that's the next thing I want us to talk about, combining the find and the whether it's the mid, left, right function. So in this case, we want to combine it, I think maybe with the mid function to solve the problem that we have. Okay, so the find function, we have seen how it does use it to extract the position of any particular text you want to find inside within a specific text. Okay, so for example, now to accurately extract the wing information from our location column, that's here on the Excel, this wing information, to accurately extract it, those wing information from our location column, we can use the find to locate the position of the characters that come before and after the wing. Okay, we want to find the character that come before the wing. The wing is the west or north or south or whatever. Those are the wings. So we'll use the find to find the position of those characters before and the characters after. This function might be, it might be confusing for you at this stage, but don't worry, as time goes on, you'll be able to catch it up. Okay, so we want to use it to locate the position of the character that come before and after the wing, like the hyphen and the space that we have before and after the wing text. So we can then use this position within the mid function to extract the exact text we need, even if the length or the starting position of the wings varies, just like we have here. Some are 8, the position is 8, some position is 9. Okay, so let's quickly demonstrate this. Okay, but before that, you need to understand the problem here. Okay, you need to understand the problem. The problem here, the wing information in the location column starts after the first dash and goes until the next space. Okay, so the position of the dash and the space can vary, and that can make you to not get exactly what you want for some of the information here. So therefore, we need to find the position of the first dash. So we can find, maybe use, for instance, you can say, let me see, equal to find the position, right? I want to find the position of the first dash. This is the first dash in what, comma, in over here, right? Want to find the position of this, and if I press, oh, I think I've made a mistake. Okay, I made a mistake. Let's correct that. I didn't add the closing quotation, then comma, then select. They want to find the position of the first dash, and if I press enter, you see their position is 3. Okay, but what if maybe you have some of this thing goes on until maybe you have 3 characters here. You see that the position 2 might change, but for this case they are all 3. Okay, you have been able to find the position of the first dash, and also you have been able to find the position of the spaces as well. Okay, so we can also calculate, we can also find the position of the space after the wing. We can use the find to do this as well, the position of the space, apart from what we just did here. Okay, I would like to use the function separately, but if I go on explaining it one after the other, I don't want us to run out of time again. But let me just keep on showing you. So if I say find, and I say maybe, then let's see what works here. Find, then you see the space, right? Then comma, Then I will say the text that I want us to select is actually this. And wait, why is this here? Okay, then after selecting the text, then I'll put comma again and I'll type another find. Now I want to find for the space, right? Then I'll say space, right? Then comma again, then that text again where we want to find the space. Okay, then I will close the parenthesis and I will say +1. The reason why I'm doing this is, let me explain the one after the other. You say find the position where the space is in this text, then find where hyphen is also in this text, then count +1. So if I press enter, I think I've missed. Do you want to accept this correction? Okay, yes. So if I press enter, that's because I didn't enclose the like I told you, you have to make sure you close the last bracket. So I didn't do that. Excel, made the correction for me and tell me if I want to accept the correction. And you can see how we'll be able to do that. And if I to fill, you can see it's almost what we find here, but this one will give you exact information because of we are finding both the position of the space and hyphen. Adding one, as in if you incorporate it in the find function to correct this, it will make sure that there is no error than using the one that we did here. Okay, so now let's see how that works in this particular for this particular information. So I'm going to delete the mid function that we use here. I'll use, or instead of deleting it, okay, I will, we talk about nesting function. So I will nest the find function inside the mid function. Okay, so let's do that. Let me double click, or I can go here and do it in the formula tab, so everyone will see what we are doing. So before that, let me just delete the first one. So the mid function is what we want to do. I've typed the mid function and I've selected the cell where we want to find the middle. Then I've pressed the comma. Then the next thing is the find function that we want to. This is also nesting a function, right? Then here we want to find a hyphen. Okay, the position of the hyphen. Remember that when you are typing, let me delete this so you see. After typing the mid function and the text, remember the first thing is the start number, right? So we want to find the start number for the hyphen and the start number for the space, which is what we did here. That is why I say what we did here will be very helpful for us here. So let's do that again. And if I say find, so what we want to find now is the number, right? The start number. Then I will say what we want to find first is the hyphen, right? Hyphen is the first thing we want to find. Then I'll press comma. Then I will say the text where we want to find that hyphen is this, right? Then I'll close the parenthesis and I'll press +1. What this does is after it finds this position, then start counting from the next. Understand? So that you not start counting from that hyphen. So after you find hyphen, find it, because it's actually what is in the middle. We are trying to find the start num. Okay, we are trying to find the start num, and we have just done that using the find function to find the position of that hyphen. When you find it, add 1 to it. That one will start counting from the west. Otherwise, it will start from that hyphen. Okay, so where we want to start and the number I want to start counting. So I will now press comma. Then after I press comma, I will use another function find to find the what? The space. Okay, where we want it to stop counting, something like that. Just take it like that. Remember that it have to tell Excel the number of characters that you want to use. Now you want to use the find function to tell Excel when you get this number of characters, once you get to the space, stop. So we use the find function again to find that number for the space. Then after I type find, okay, I will now, the space, put it inside the quotation mark, and again comma. Then the next thing, where do we want to find the space? Within this text again. So you have to select it again. That's why I say this might looks like, because it's longer, but if you understand the step, it will help you. And again, as long as you are following this syntax, it will help you. Then I'll press comma. Then the next thing is what? The start number, right? That we want to find. So we use find function again to get this start number. Each one use find to get it. Otherwise, it will not. Anyway, there's no problem if I add space to make my data clean, but let's just continue since I didn't do it for other ones. Now I want to find the position of the hyphen. I might not see it from the position of the. So what you want to do here is just like saying minus 3 from 8. That's what I want us to do here. Minus, we are able to find the position of the space, I mean the hyphen, and here is the position of the space, right? So what we want to do is minus the position of this hyphen from the position of this space, so it will give us just the information in between them. Okay, that's what we want to do there. So I'll use find function to get that. So we say the same hyphen that we find again. You find the position of the hyphen. Okay, then comma within F4 again, comma. Then after that, the start number or whatever that you want. So I have to close this and say +1. Remember, when you find the position, add 1 so that it start from the number of the wings, whether it is N or W or whatever character it is. That is why it is important to use the +1. Okay, make sure you add it there, otherwise it will include the position. You start counting from the position of that hyphen. Then after I say +1, I now minus the position of the hyphen. So I will say minus find again. This time I will start with bracket. Bracket. You have to enclose it in a bracket, okay, so that you will not throw an error. So I will now say quotation again. I mean you start with find function before you say quotation, then quotation hyphen quotation comma, then where you want to find it again, you want to minus it from there, then comma, I mean not comma, you say close the bracket, then type +1 again, +1. Okay, then when you type +1, now remember to close all of the brackets that are open. 1, 2, 3. So we have all the brackets that we open that we haven't closed now. So if I say enter, I think I made a mistake there. I say value error. Let's see where the mistake is. After +1, comma, then find space K4, find, then space comma K4. Okay, I think I made a mistake. See it here. I'm not supposed to. I think I wanted to delete it, and I didn't. This comma that I left before the closing bracket. So that, I think that was the error. I think I made another mistake. Let's just follow it again. Then +1. Then after +1, then I didn't close this bracket here. I'm supposed to close this bracket here. Okay, before. So here I'm going to delete. Do you want to? Yeah, but first of all, what this means, I have to delete the last bracket at the end because I've closed one bracket here. So I have to delete the last bracket here. Okay, so that's the correction I said. If I said no, let me do it myself, it will not work until I have to. Okay, let me do it myself. So I have to delete the last bracket that is at the end, and I'll press enter. You see, it has given me the worst information that I want. Okay, so if I copy it down now, it will give me everything will be corrected. This might looks like, it's complicated for you for a start. I said it earlier, when we get to find function, you might be confused. But if you go through this video again and again, you will be able to understand what we did here. You use find function to find the position. Those +1 there is because you want it not to start counting from the hyphen. I want it to start counting from west. So whatever we did here, we use +1, +1, plus 1 in any of the finding. That's why I have to do this here first, so that we understand it before we actually start applying it in the meet function here. Okay, so then the next thing we want to talk is the date function, and that will be the end for today's class. I am sure that you have a question for this find function. I'm sure you have a question.
I will go through the video as usual.
Yeah?
If it is question, I said I will go through the video again. If it is question,
Yeah.
questions full everywhere.
Just follow it. Follow it as I was explaining it, because the thing is complicated. Understand? It's kind of, and it's long. Understand? So if you understand each step based on the syntax, you understand it better. Then after I finish it and press enter, you see those value error that we get was because of those comma I added. I was not supposed to add those commas. So once you find such error, debugging code or troubleshooting is part of skills that you learn as a data analyst or data scientist or a programmer. So even when you made a mistake in maybe syntax or add a character that is not supposed to be there, or forget to add a character, just like Excel might do the correction for you, Python might not do that. Python will throw an error and expect you to correct the error. Okay, so once you encounter error when after writing code or functions, go through it, you will discover where the error is, just like we did it. This thing can happen to anybody. Even those that are building the high-tech Microsoft and all that, they make mistakes, and they also, what, debugging is another skill. In fact, if you are employed as a maybe junior data scientist, the first task that might be given to you, or part of the selecting process, might be giving you code that contains error, and they will ask you to debug it. So it's also a skill to learn. So let's go to the next function we want to talk is the date function. Today, now, and YEARFRAC function. Okay, so as we have three fundamental date functions that are very useful. Okay, which is today, now, YEARFRAC. Okay, so the today function is straightforward. It returns the current date. So if I use today function now, for now the syntax for the today function, just like I can see here, but it has to start with equal to. Okay, so if I say maybe equal to here, I have to add an equal to. This is today function, not the, let me this is today function, right? But if you want to, if I'm talking about the syntax, it has to be equal to today. So let me just leave it as it is. Okay, so it's just for you to get the current date. If I use it, I will be able to see what today's date is, and it doesn't require any argument. Okay, the date will update automatically when you open it, so you don't have to add any argument inside the parentheses. Okay, that the same thing applies to the now function. Okay, the now function is similar to today function, I mean to say, but it returns the current date and the current time. Okay, the syntax is now, as you can see here. Okay, they are starting with equal to, because it's a syntax, right? So then the YEARFRAC function allows you to calculate the fraction of a year between two dates. So you want to check the fraction. That is why it is YEARFRAC. That means year fraction. Okay, it is a fraction of a year between two dates. Okay, so this is particularly useful for calculating things like years of service. I think I mentioned that earlier. You want to see the years of service, or the proportion of a year that has passed. Okay, so the syntax is equal to YEARFRAC, then parentheses. Then inside the parentheses, you have some arguments like the start date. Okay, if I go inside it, you have some argument like the start date, like this. Okay, then comma, then the end date. That's how the syntax is done. Okay, Then other arguments, you say comma, you can maybe the basis. This basis could be sorry, could be, let me just type basis inside. Any other basis you have you want to use to do the, that's how the syntax is being written. Okay, I just want to type it here so that you see it, or see how it works in Excel. So in our employee data, okay, let's see how we can be able to use this function. So in our employee data, we can use today to easily get the current date, now to see the now function for current date and time, and YEARFRAC for to calculate years of services for each employees. Okay, based on, for each employee, I mean to say based on their start date. Okay, so remember our data analyst Ken. Okay, Ken now needs to work with employees their start date. I think they have warned us again. So we have 15 minutes. Within 15 minutes I will finish up. Okay, this is not going to take us time. So Ken want to work with the employee start date and review the date. So first I want to start with today's date. Okay, I want to know what is today's date. So to display today's date, let me come to this date function here, and inside this place I'll type equal to today. Remember, that's how to write today function. Then I'll close the, as I'm typing in Excel shows us the correct syntax here. So I will now close the parenthesis and I press enter. You can see it shows us what today's is. I didn't mean to click on this. So it shows us what today's date is, okay, without telling what the time is. So we are able to say at least today is 16th of April, right? 2025. That's correct. Now we want to, instead of the today's, want to see now will tell us today's date and also what time it is right now. So let me change that today function to now, and I'll see how that works. Then I'll say enter. You see, it gives me, even if I scroll down to my time, you see it's 12:26. If you check your time, you see it's the same for West African time. So I'm in Nigeria, so this is the time as it is right now in Nigeria, and the date as it is right now in Nigeria. Okay, so this is how you can use both today and the now function. The difference is that now function includes time. It gets you the dates and time, but the today function just gets you what today's date is. Okay, now we want to calculate the year of service for our employees. Okay, the year of service. So we have the year of service column. Okay, so in the year of service column, I will start with equal to, remember the YEARFRAC function that we discussed about. Okay, that is it. Now after I click on the YEARFRAC function, the start date, the date the employee started work, so that is the date of hire, which is today's date, that particular date, right? I think is 2008. The employee started working since 2008. Then after I select it, I will say comma, then the date the employee stopped working, which is today. So here I'm going to next today function inside this YEARFRAC function so that we'll be able to get today. Okay, the day, instead of me typing whatever date today is, I'll use the today function to get that, right? Okay, so I'll close and at the same time close the last parenthesis. So this will give us the number of years this person has worked for since 2008. If you check since 2008 to now, you see that it's actually 17 years. So I'll use the fill handle, and before that, let me see if you can remove the decimal point that is there. We don't need that. So after I've done that, then I'll come and use the fill handle to do that. So we have been able to see, for instance, if what we wanted to find is maybe any employee that have worked 15 years or maybe 10 years and above will have a certain maybe promotion or salary increase from here we can be able to see that this person, Steve Bakat or Bakata, however the name is, or Adam Barry, has been able to work for 21 years. Okay, and Connor Bett has worked for 10 years. So you see how we were able to use the function to get it. Remember, the first of all, when you write the function, the first thing is to select the starting date, which is the date that employee was hired. Okay, then after that, you want to that date, you want to then you the next will be the today's date. So we minus today's date from the date it was hired. You'll be able to get the year of service that employee has worked for us. But why is this function useful? Okay, why is it useful? Think about calculating bonuses. Okay, like I talk about, you want to calculate bonuses you want to give to these employees based on tenure. Okay, or tracking how long someone has been in a certain role. Okay, so this is why it is very, very useful for us. I don't know if you have any question you can ask, but that brings us to the before you can start asking questions, so that before the time we run out of time, you can use it to ask your question. And that's brings us to the end of today's class. So we have covered a lot of ground today, exploring how functions can manipulate text and work with dates. Okay, as we wrap up this hands-on exploration, it's important to remember the key takeaways. Okay, functions are at the heart of Excel's power. Functions makes Excel to be very powerful for data analysis or data management. So they allow us to automate tasks, manipulate data in various ways, and perform complex calculation with ease. Okay, so the tax and date function we have worked with, just like today, are just a small sample of the vast array of functions available in Excel. Okay, we use the text function are the left, right, middle, upper, lower, and the proper function. Those are the text function. Okay, so when I say text function, understand the one I'm talking about. When we talk about the find, the mid, the left, right, the upper, lower, proper, those are the text function. Then the date function we talk about today is the today function, the now function, and the YEARFRAC function. So this function that we worked with today are just a small sample of the vast array of functions available in Excel. Okay, so if you go to Excel, now if you go to let me go to Excel. If you go to formulas, you see that we have, if you go to AutoSum, you see formulas, that functions that you can use for formulas. If you go to financial, you see financial functions. If you go to logical, like the if and the else and all of that, true, not, false, and functions, just like you can see also in Python. These are also in Excel. So when I was telling someone that even though you might not be using Excel too much as a data scientist, you need Excel. You need to have knowledge Excel. You cannot say you are a data scientist, you don't even know how to use Excel. One day they will give you a task that you have to use Excel, and you start running about. And again, you see that if it is a small startup, as a data scientist, you might also be doing data entry job. You are a data scientist, so, but it works like that. So you need to have this knowledge. Okay, so these functions that we work today are just just part of, not just, it's a small sample of the vast array of functions. If you come to this date and time function, you see that it's not just today and now function and the YEARFRAC that we discussed now that we have other ones. But as we go on in this class, we are going to learn them. Okay, this is just the intermediate part of this class. We'll finish the intermediate and we'll go to the advanced class. So by understanding the syntax and how to combine this function, you will be well equipped to tackle a wide range of data management challenges, okay, that we have. So Your challenge for this week is to practice using this function. Try combining them in different ways. Okay, the more you experiment, the more comfortable you become. Just especially that find function that we use. Try it, use it, make a mistake, know why you made that mistake. Just like after I used the function here, I saw error, the value error telling us that the value that we typed here is wrong. So I went there and I removed some of those mistakes. So you can also, it is also fine if you make any mistake. Okay. So if you made a mistake, just debug, troubleshoot whatever the problem is, and you are good to go. Okay. So now it's your chance to ask any question you have about the functions we have covered. Okay. So don't hesitate. No question is a bad question when you are learning. So don't think, I might be asking question. Remember, we have just a little time for this class to end. So whatever question you have, bring it on so that we can conclude today's class. How many are we?
It's only me. Oh, it's only me that is on.
I can see that. Do you have any question? I think others. Yeah. Do you have any question?
No.
Okay. Don't have any question for now.
Yes.
Okay. That brings us to today's class. Okay. The end of today's class. So the video recording will be ready. Today is what? Wednesday. So possibly tomorrow or next, it takes time to edit and upload. So probably before weekend, because the topic we cover today is for this week. But by God grace, if you have time, maybe on Friday, I don't know if, or it will be next week, because I'm covering two topics. I cover both text and the date function today. So so that we can move, the pace will go further. So in a situation whereby maybe timing, and you see that I just taught text function and I couldn't cover the date function again for today. Now I wouldn't want that. So it's better I combine classes and get what we want. So even if you have class once, we know we have done the two topic for the week. But if you have more time, like even though we have done this, I can also hold another class. Let's say we have this class on Monday. There's possibility that I might hold the next week class also this week, so that we move with pace because of some time that have passed already. So thank you for joining me today. And if you are just coming across this video for the first time, please don't forget to subscribe and share the video to data enthusiasts like you. Thank you for joining me.
All right. Have a nice day, bro.
And you too.